Okay, so this is the week 4 lecture for context and environment. All about home safety modifications. Could review some stuff, but really this is the focus of it, the home safety modifications. And a big focus of it is that age out article. Hopefully you've read that. I would highly recommend reading that because a big chunk of your midterm exam is going to be based on that article. You need to know it in depth. You need to know all those different categories that we'll get through that they talk about. These are the categories, these 10 different things for a client-centered home assessment. The articles are really good in terms of articulating why OT, we are really the kings and queens of home safety assessment. That is our bread and butter, what we do better than anybody else. I think the article kind of showed why we do it better than anybody else. Certainly we know the adaptations and all that. We also know the human being. It should be part of this class, the story of the person, using your empathy to understand the person, getting into really where they're coming from to make it a good fit. A lot of times you're making changes in the home, and you can make all kinds of changes, but if the person doesn't go for it, if it's not a good fit, it's just not going to happen. And we're really good as OTs at making it happen, seeing that whole holistic kind of picture. So definitely know all 10 of these by the end of this lecture, and ask questions if you don't know them. Kind of the overview, home assessment. This is kind of home health in general. Some of you may have been exposed to it a little bit. Probably most of you have not. It's unique. I mean, you've read the story. It's going to give you an idea about it. Definitely there's some unique individuals that you're working with in the home. Most folks, though, the stories are the unusual people. Most folks who are older are very happy to have you in your home, very grateful for your help. But you are a guest in your home. It's kind of a different mindset. When you're in the hospital and you come in, as the almighty therapist or clinician, the patient is usually, they're laying down, they're sick, whatever, very submissive. They're willing to do whatever you ask them to do because they want to get the heck out of there as soon as possible. You're kind of in control to get them home. Once they're home. They feel like you're kind of a guest coming into their home. You really need to justify the worth of the OT. You really need to make it in pragmatic terms. This is what I can do to help you. And we talked about the practicums. This is a good thing to kind of do in your practicums. Your mindset is, you're not just there assuming they're going to accept you, assuming they're going to know who you are, what you do. I'm the OT. I'm here to help you get back to doing the things you love to do, get back to where you were before all these problems happened, whatever the problems were. I'm really here to help you and kind of do what you need to be done. I'm here to work for you, kind of thing. You have to kind of sell yourself to a degree. When you're making your recommendations, especially when you come out of school, you have all this knowledge, and you just want to dump it on the patient, and because all these things that can help them, and they can keep them falling are just horrific. They changes a person's life more than anything in a hurry can be a fall in their quality of life. So you don't want that to happen for your patients because you care for your patients, but too much is too much. You have to really limit it, especially with older folks. Maybe one thing or two things, see how they do with that, and then kind of evolve from that. Motivational interviewing, I don't know if you've been exposed to that, but the basic gist of that, we'll talk more about that when it comes to med compliance. But motivational interviewing is going to let them feel like they're in control, like they're the boss. You're just kind of making suggestions. Here's an example. I go into a home, and I learned this after time, and you see the throw rug or something on the floor, and you're worried they're going to trip on that, and they're going to fall. And you could tell them, which I used to do, get rid of that throw rug, you're going to fall, or you could say, wow, what happened to me just a few weeks ago? There was a guy not too far from here. He had a throw rug on his bathroom floor, just like you, on the kitchen floor or wherever, and he was awful. He slipped, he tripped off the floor on the throw rug, fell, broke his hip, and he's still in the nursing home trying to deal with that. He's had a total hip replacement. So I don't know, something to think about. So it's kind of their choice versus you telling them what to do. There are some circumstances where you kind of really need to kind of step forward and say, this is unsafe, this is my recommendation, you're not ready to take a shower yet, or you're not ready to do this. But when it comes to change in their home, adaptation, sometimes this approach is better. Of course, having said that, everybody's different. Some people need that upfront approach, some people it's more suggestive. It really depends on the situation and the kind of the person. So this is going into all these different, sorry to zip around, these 10 different things, kind of breaking them down. These are the 10 things you need to know, all 10, for the midterm. All part of a really good home safety assessment. Determining the client's readiness for change level. This goes back to wellness, Prochaska's levels of change, a huge tool in helping you figure out where they're at. Are they ready to change? Maybe they're not. Just to kind of zip through those, pre-contemplation, they're not ready to change. Contemplation, they're kind of thinking about change, not ready to do it. Preparation, they're ready to change, they've decided. Coming up with a plan, goals, this is where you really kind of jump in. Action, you're putting that plan into action, making those changes in the home. Maintenance, this can be really crucial. Supporting them, encouraging them. It's okay that we took the shower door off. You know, it looks different, I know, but it's going to keep you safe. Let's keep working with it. You'll get used to it over time, kind of thing. Determining the client's level of compliance. How willing or able are they to keep up with the recommendations? And use those strategies. They're likely to, or they're not likely to follow the recommendations due to poor insight. This is what you see a lot. Readiness to change level, or a lot of times they just change in general. It's just really hard for older folks. We talked about design. A lot of times that change, they hate the look of that commode over their toilet or beside their bed. Really kind of push back against that. It just says, oh, I'm sick. And you're dealing with all the bucket and all that, so it can be a big change for people. What kind of personal assistance do they prefer? Somebody coming in to help them with bathing and dressing can be a very personal thing. They may really, really need it, but what do they prefer? Do they prefer to be independent or no personal assistance present? Determine clients' level of social support. Do they have friends, families? What kind of supports they'll provide assistance? Somebody stopping in regularly? Can somebody come in and help you with bathing and dressing? Community. This can be a great resource. Social clubs, religious organizations. In Orono, they have a whole big community resource thing that's just really great to help people with shopping or getting people to the doctor. Do they live with able-bodied others? Do they live with an adult with a disability? A lot of times that is the case. That was the case with me. I go in there, wasn't sure who I was treating because they've aged together, the couple. So they're both in their 80s. They're both kind of trying to compensate and help each other out. It can be very dicey. Home modifications. One of the more challenging things as you get older is maintaining your home. It's very physical. A lot of the things in maintaining your home. Think about cleaning the gutters, shoveling the walks, fixing the faucet, taking care of the garbage. A lot of physical things you just kind of take for granted. Do they have the resources to maintain the home? Does not have personal resources. They do or they don't have personal resources to keep it going. I think financial, functional, cognitive kind of resources. Usually it's financial. What are the financial resources of the client? Do they have a limited income? Do they have those resources? Are they part of a group? You tap into that group. Veterans, I used to love veterans because they have a lot of veterans benefits. Pay for just about any adaptive device that I wanted in the home. They're great. Multiple Sclerosis Society, MS Society, another thing we kind of tap into. Parkinson's societies, Eastern Area Agency on Aging. They're big in this area. There's some form of that all over the country, I believe, in cities and stuff. Keep that in mind. As a home health OT, you're tapping into resources. I have a friend, she almost feels like she's a social worker. That's what she spends a lot of time with her visits, tapping into resources to help folks stay in the home and do what they need to do. What is the client's clinical course of disease? Is it acute, just a temporary thing? Is it a chronic thing that's going to stay about the same, or is it a chronic progressive thing, something that's going to get worse over time? Give you some examples of each. Acute, total hip replacement, total knee replacement. They're relatively healthy, kind of like a 6-month to 12-month ordeal, and they're kind of back on their feet. So then you have to think about, that bench is like $70 or so. Those bars, how much big changes do you want to do to your house? Kind of maybe you can get by temporarily if you have enough help. A chronic kind of static thing, spinal cord. They might get worse over time, but generally you're kind of where you're at over time. Let's say it's like C7. You can't use your legs; you just use your arms. You really have to think, okay, this is where you're going to be the rest of your life. It really make sense to take out that loan, to make that investment, and adapt your home to your needs. The big investment. Chronic progressive disease, Parkinson's, other bigger examples, ALS. That's going to progress, right? Those kinds of things, multiple sclerosis. So they're probably going to get worse over time. Cancer through the early stages. And then you have to kind of have that conversation. This grab bar will do the trick right now, getting out of bed, but down the road you may need a hospital bed. Here's how you would go about getting one. Same thing with around the house. Think short term to get them through that, but they have to start planning for the long term, if not, making those changes already. Very distinct differences. Real important that you tease that out and know that when you're making your recommendations. Aesthetics, we've talked about aesthetics, this idea of enclothed cognition, medical looking things. Do they place a high value on appearance? Do they emphasize function over appearance? A lot of times older folks are at the point where they don't really care, from their clothes to that commode to whatever. A lot of times they do care, especially if they're younger. When I say younger, somebody in their 70s or highly functional, still highly functional kind of thing. So you have to really think about that, because you could force the issue and you think you got the solution, and you come back and they haven't changed. I probably said this, but I can't tell you how many times I would go in somebody's home and I would suggest some changes, make those changes. They go, oh yes dear, do this, do that. Throw rugs are a great example. People really get attached to rugs. Come back the next day and they're all back in place. And they say, well, what happened? Well, I decided I don't want to move those rugs or whatever. So you have to kind of think about all those things. Structural condition of the client's home. Is it in disrepair? What's the floors like? The structure like? The overall integrity of the interior walls, ceilings, plumbing, drainage. Trailers. You go into a lot of trailers, the walls. You're thinking, oh, I'll put a grab bar right there, but there's no stud. It's just sheetrock or kind of flimsy stuff. I'm going to put a commode over this toilet, but the floor is kind of falling through here. So you have to think about that and be aware of that. I knew a PT, I would never go this far, but she would do plumbing. She was like really into fixing things, and she would fix things. And there's a lot to do, believe me, in people's homes that you could do. Rental units, we'll talk more about rental units. You have to really advocate for the client, and you can have a lot of power to advocate for your client. You go in there and you see they need some bars in the bathroom or in the toilet, so they can hang on to something as they're pulling their pants up. They don't have it. They're worried, that you're putting in a bar there, they don't own it, that sort of thing. What you do is you call up the landlord, and you're nice, and you say, this is Cav, Kelly, the occupational therapist. I'm seeing one of your residents, Jill, whatever. I think she'd really benefit from a grab bar beside her toilet, a 12-inch grab bar right beside to the left of her toilet. I'm really worried about her falling, hurting herself, ending up in the hospital. Usually, when you say that, the lights go off in their head, and those lights are around liability. They don't want to get sued, so they do what you ask them to do. You have a lot of power, more than you realize. There's a lot of rules also around ADAs, Fair Housing Act. Reasonable accommodations must be provided and paid for by the housing provider unless provided them would cause an undue financial and administrative burden. A grab bar is not a big burden. In such cases, the provider is still required to provide any other reasonable accommodation up to the point where we're not resolved, blah, blah, blah. That reasonable accommodation, that's the thing. All premises within covered dwellings must contain the following features: an accessible route into and through the dwelling. These are kind of the basic things they need to have. Light switches, electrical outlets, thermostats, and other mountable controls in accessible locations. Reinforcement of the bathroom walls to allow later installation of grab bars, so you can put a grab bar in there. Usable kitchens and bathrooms, such as an individual using a wheelchair can maneuver around and use the space. That's a big one. So there are laws there kind of supporting your recommendations. What is the client's housing type? We talked about a rental unit, a privately owned single-family home, multifamily home. It can make a difference. Space and layout, how much space is there? A lot of times you're limited space. Portability, what do I mean by portability? Do they need the equipment to kind of be moving to different places? Within the home, can you move? Is somebody able to take this commode over the toilet, which is ideal, and put it beside your bed at night so you can use it at night versus coming into the bathroom? Is somebody in the family able to do that? Is somebody in the family able to kind of deal with the bucket and all that, the waste? Maybe not. You're going to Florida every winter. You can take this stuff with you. You can take this bench, this commode, and you can, it's portable. That sort of sense. What is the client's literacy level? We ran into this with Johnny and legs. He could not read. We were relying on pictures and images. Can they read a home safety list? They may not. They may say they can, but they can't. You want to do that teach back. Can you tell me these recommendations? What I'm thinking here, or just use videos and pictures. I mean, we have these phones now. Everybody seems to have a phone. Some older folks don't, but most people do, or somebody in the family does. So you can send a video. Or this is the thing, or this is the image off Amazon. I want you to do that sort of thing. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual recommendations and this whole process of looking at all these different things. You need to know all this. You really do. Just to kind of hit home on this again. You think, well, I'm not going to be doing home health for my level 2. I'm just going to be in a nursing home or a hospital rehab. And I don't think, I'll ever do home health. It's not just home health. It's really everything you do in rehab is based on what they're going home to. So you're always asking them, what's the bathroom set up? How's the toilet set up? Is it low? Is it high? Is it a walk-in shower? Is the bed high? Is it low? How many steps to get into that? What's the garage? All these questions, trying to get this picture in your mind, of what it's like, their home. So you need to kind of know, in depth this sort of stuff. So we're going to take it step by step. Usually you start with getting into the home from the vehicle. How they do it, sitting backside first, like this person is. This is an awesome seat that comes out of the car. If you can afford it, that's really cool. But if you can't and the seat is the other way, you're still going backside first, sitting, and then you're swinging your legs out. And then when you're coming out, same way, sit, swing your legs out, and then grab onto something to stand up. This is where it gets a little tricky, and you're getting on something to sit down, some kind of stability. Really hard to use your walker at this point. Low-tech suggestions, rolling the window down halfway. I've seen people use like a clothes hanger to grab onto. These things are really simple, cheap. These little adaptive devices that kind of go into the clamp there. It gives you a little grab bar to lift, to pull up. I think it's less than $20. There's a strap, and a simple thing you can use to grab as you're coming in and out of the car. Sometimes they have a hard time swiveling in the seat. They really don't have the hip control. There's these little disc things you can use, or just a garbage bag you can use. adapted vehicles, all that sort of stuff. Okay, now you're entering the home. That first entrance can be the most challenging one, especially when they're coming home from the hospital. How many steps are the railings, the quality of the steps, ramp, we'll get into ramp in a second. What's that door like? The door is very challenging. Opening the door. This is a good place to put a grab bar, right there by the door. When I did this for my mom when she was kind of dealing with this, getting into the home, one thing she wanted was a grab bar right there. I've done that with a lot of clients. Hang on with the grab bar so you can open the door. How easy it is to get in and out of that door, think about that. The step up and in, all that sort of stuff. The width. Sometimes vision can be an issue coming up those steps. Can't see the lip. Can you put some contrast tape? Lighting is huge. Those motion detector lights are great. The LED bulbs last forever. That's awesome. Lighting is a huge deal. They're coming home from having a nice dinner or something. The light comes on. They have the grab bar. Everything's good, hopefully. Here's the ramps coming into the home. We talked about that. 1:12 ratio, 12 inches out, every inch up. Ideally, it's 1:16, even more of a grade. Different kinds of designs. This is a switchback. Which a lot of people use because they don't have this space on their lawn to grade it, but they need to grade it, so they kind of go back and forth. This is what you don't want. This is a nightmare. They can be rolling back and forth, rolling back. Couldn't do it on their own. They need someone to push. That's a huge push up that hill. There are temporary ramps. The VA, when I was doing it, I don't know if they still do, but they used to give out a lot of temporary ramps. It's a cute kind of thing. The width, ideal width, 36 inches. The landings, this is what I mean by a landing right here. They come up, kind of like this is a landing here, there's one here. There should be one every 30 feet. And they should ideally be 5 by 5 feet. You're kind of turning around, coming up. This is main, don't forget resistive surface. There's some resistive surface. I can't tell whether that's resistive or not. That definitely is not. That would be a nightmare in Maine. We talked about that with the dog last week, resistive surface. The hallways. You're in the house, coming down the hall, clutter. Clutter is like a huge thing you're dealing with in the homes. The width, think of maybe even railings along the hall. Get rid of those throw rugs. Think about contrast, transitioning kind of thing. Bumps and ridges, especially so don't trip over those sorts of things. Lighting is huge. Chairs to rest along the way. Marking lips, thresholds, sharp edge, tape, contrast tape. This looks awful, but this is what you're dealing with. A lot of home health clients. I can't tell you how many hoarder or semi-hoarder kind of situations I was dealing with. You go in there, it's like, where do you sit? Stuff, excessive stuff, whatever it is, can be really challenging to deal with. Why is that? People get emotionally attached to their stuff. It's their lives. These are older folks. They've lived a life. They've accumulated things that mean something to them along the way, something that has something with their kids, a relationship, a job. They don't want to lose the stuff because it's like losing part of themselves. So you have to be kind of, again, motivational interviewing, challenging. You may even need to get some mental health providers in there if it's a big deal. You may need to get DHS, Department of Health Services, in there if it's a situation like that where it's just unhygienic and unsafe kind of thing. You get degrees of this. The living room, getting up from the chair, sinking cushions. Those lift chairs are great. I've seen those power lift chairs in the home. But they're very expensive. Medicare just pays for part of them. A lot of times you have like loan closets or community members that kind of loan these things out. But they can be expensive. Wooden pallets lift things up. Plywood under sagging cushions keep it from sinking into it. People eat meals in their chair. Lap trays, TV dinner trays. The rollator is good for that. The remote. You don't really think about the remote. A lot of people just live for that remote, and they may be having a harder time with it. Cognitive issues, visual issues. I've spent entire visits just working with people on the remote, adapting it, teaching them how to use it. Edges, they're falling a lot. Sharp edges, glass, padding almost child-proofing for edges. Telephone access, the cell phone in the pocket is the simplest thing. Lifeline, they have little things around their wrist, around their neck. You know, there's great things now with smartphones, Apple phones, wristwatch, swatch kind of thing. Talk about that. Those are all good things to think about because if they fall, the commercial, they fall, they can't get up. Very real. I can't tell you how many times I would go into a home, people had been on the ground for hours at a time, if not days, because they didn't have some kind of access to calling somebody. The bedroom. We're in the bedroom now, thinking about the adaptations, getting out of bed, into bed. Here's a trapeze with the bed. This is a mechanical lift or Hoyer lift. Person really needs like max assists and they're quite big. Getting their legs in and out is a huge deal. You've seen those leg lifters. Can you bring those out in lab? I think we might have one. It's like a little strap goes around their leg to get their legs in. A lot of times they can get their body in, they can't get their legs in. A leg lifter is great for that, getting their legs in. Think about skin, different kinds of mattresses, air mattresses, egg crates, padding for their feet. Skin breakdown in bed is a huge deal. Too high, too low. Sometimes you just move the box spring to lower it down. Bed rails, side rails, trapezes, wedges to prop them up. Sometimes just a rope on the bottom of the bed. I would do this for clients. Just get them a rope or just a blanket tightly wrapped into kind of like a coil. They can't pull themselves up. They just reach for the rope and they pull themselves up. Good deal. Kind of adapt a little bit. Standing bars can be a great tool all throughout the home. This is what I mean by standing bar. These are not that expensive. She uses it to pull herself up along with the trapeze. He's using it. This thing kind of swivels to get in and out of the tub. She uses it to get off the couch, get in and out of bed. The counter can go anywhere. Standing bars are cool. Good resource. I'm still talking about the bedroom. Getting up at night to go to the toilet. One of the leading causes of falls, we'll get into this in a few weeks, is incontinence. They're in a rush. It's dark. Older folks have a hard time in the dark, adjusting with their eyes. Like I said, they're rushed. They're disoriented. They fall. Don't want them to do that long trek into the bathroom. This beside the bed, it's not pretty, but it's great. A urinal can be good. There's different kinds of urinals now for female urinals. Those are all great. Phone access, night lights, those motion lights can be good if they insist on going in. Access to their bureaus, a closet, all that sort of stuff. Things you have to kind of think about. There's a lot to think about. And usually what I'm doing as I do these assessments is I'm doing it with the client and ideally a family member so they can kind of get it if the client's older. And we start, okay, what's your routine? Let's start in the bedroom. You get up in the morning, your challenge is there. Go into the bathroom, challenge is there. The kitchen, or in the bedroom, we also go through the dressing thing, how you're going to get your clothes, kind of thing. All these details really slow yourself down, slow them down, go through the whole process, and you can pick out these fall risks and make recommendations. And again, you're not overwhelming them with this list, but you're making your internal list, you're prioritizing. Start with this, I'm going to go to this, kind of thing. And again, if you can get a family member with you, there can really get a lot more buy-in and follow through. The stairs, pets, inside stairs, railings. This is the trail lift, very expensive, but really a great tool. Sometimes you're putting walkers and wheelchair on the bottom stairs and on the top of the stairs, contrasts on the edge of the stairs, so they're having a hard time with that. Animals. People love their animals. We talked about that last week. Huge part of home health are the animals in people's homes. Access. The feeding, the water dish, the kitty litter box. It's on the ground. They're bending over, fall rest. Can you get that higher up? Putting your animals out. Think of the dog. Let him out to go to the bathroom. Hooking that leash, unhooking that leash. Can't tell you how many clients have fallen doing that. Think about adaptations to that. That's a huge deal for a lot of folks. Moving into the bathroom, access in and out of the bathroom. Floor mats, a must, some kind of resistive floor mat or something, because it's very slippery, obviously. The toilet height, there's different options around the toilet. This is the commode of the toilet. This is what I had the most luck with. It's very solid, very sturdy. You can adjust the height. Two big, strong arms to push off from, sturdy arms to push off from. These 3-in-1 commodes, it's like a bucket with a hole in the middle of it. And like I was saying, you can move it over the toilet during the day, beside the bed at night. That's ideal option 1. These are Versaframes, kind of a funky word. It's just the bars. There's the raised toilet seat. You've seen those. We still have one of those in the lab. It's like a plastic wedge. Seems good in theory, and a lot of people do like them. Aren't that expensive. Downsides to those, really hard to get a good fit on your toilet bowl. So sometimes they're wobbly. Hard to clean, kind of ugly, that sort of thing. A lot of people don't like them. Grab bars everywhere, raised toilet seats. Something supporting structure beside it, something solid they can push up from. Think about stability when the toileting process. We know it's not just the transfer, it's the hygiene. Do they have the reach? Can they, the range of motion? Are they able to stand and manage their pants? Huge deal. Something to hang on to do that. All part of the bathroom thing. And then the shower, options around the shower. A zillion different things you can do. This is a platform for them to hang on to. Think about that. Clothes management part can be very challenging for very debilitated folks. This is like the deluxe thing. It's like a wheelchair with a commode under it. They have wheelchairs like this with a commode with a toilet bucket under it. They roll into the shower. So it's like, when mobility is like a huge deal, moving somebody's a huge deal, like you're using a mechanical lift or a Hoyer, stick them on the chair for the morning routine, get it all done, and then they get them back into bed or whatever. This looks a little more aesthetically pleasing versus just a regular commode. A little bit more, maybe, not ideally. The shower access, in and out. Grab bars, great examples of grab bars. These are these clamp-on ones. Have you ever seen these? They're very popular, very cheap. Pros and cons, mostly cons to those. Talk about those in a second. The first question is, where do you put the grab bars? As they're getting in and out of the shower. ADA has recommendations in terms of where they go, in terms of the exact measurements. And if you're that kind of detailed person, you can do that. You can measure, put them all different places. Here's a simpler, more practical, functional way of doing it. You simulate it with the client. Let's get into the shower. Show me where you reach, where you would like to reach. It takes into account their height, their preference. Are you reaching right around here? I'll put one right here. I would usually take like painter's tape and mark it with painter's tape. Okay, we're in the shower now. You're sitting in the shower. You need to stand up to wash your backside. Where do you need to grab for support? And then I'm going to put something over here, mark it with tape, where they're going to grab it. So I don't do all these measurements. I'm just marking where they are reaching, which is all we're really talking about. And this is good placement. These two, this is getting in and out. This is standing up and sitting down. If they're doing the transfer bench thing like we have in the lab, they may not be doing this, at least not initially, because they're going to be sitting and sliding in. The long-handled hose, you can see it here, so they can sit, spray themselves down. And a lot of these hoses have controls right on the hose. You can just leave the hose down ground, and they can pick it up while they're sitting on the bench, spray themselves down. They might have to stand and do their backside, may need some help to do that, and then kind of come out. And you have your long-handled sponges, different sorts of ways. Skid mats, contrast, think about the contrast is so white in there, the grab bars. Drilling the grab bars into the studs is ideal. How do you know where those studs are? That's kind of like the wooden studs where you drill those into. How do you know where they are? Like, where are they behind this wall? There's something called a stud finder, STUD finder, real cheap. If you're doing home health, I recommend getting one. Get one at Home Depot, less than $20, I think. It just tells you, like, kind of lights up where the studs are. And you can, studs here, let's put them right here. Some walls are trickier than others. This is nice, it's just a tile thing you can go right into the stud. But some of them, more modern ones, they have like a double wall, kind of bubbles out. So there's a gap between the wall and the second wall on the stud. So you need those really long screws to go through the two walls into the stud. In that case, think carpenter, somebody that's going to have to know what they're doing to do that. Can be done. The shower, different kind of shower benches, getting in and out. Here's kind of the rolling ones. Like I was telling you, you can take those right into the shower. This is right into a pool. You can go swimming with this one. These mesh ones, these are kind of cool. Here's a bench. This is nice. This is this little bar thing. They can reach and grab and pull themselves across. What's cool about this little gap is they get the shower curtain in there. Otherwise, it's very challenging to keep water from going onto the floor. Like a lot of water on the floor, they could slip and fall. This helps with that. This is like the ultimate deluxe. This person's very disabled. You can just tilt and put them out, roll them right into the shower. Of course, very expensive. Medicare insurances does not pay for any of this stuff. Medicaid or VA may pay for some of this stuff, the bars and stuff. They won't. I almost forgot to talk about the suction cups. The suction cups, the way they work, sometimes you'll have walls like in a trailer where you can't put grab bars. So like, what do? There's nothing to drill them into. You could try suction cups. You have to be very careful with those. Some of them have detectors. They'll tell you when it's secure, when it's not. First thing I do, I see those things is I give them a good yank. And usually they're not secure. So it's like, this is not safe. You're coming out of the shower, you reach for it, boom. This is something where I'm very assertive. It's like, I can't recommend this. This is not a good thing. You could potentially fall. I've had clients who fall with these kind of thing. You need somebody that's with it mentally enough to check these things constantly, that they're clamped and they're secure. A lot of situations in a home, you don't have that. You don't have that daughter living there that can check it every time they take a shower. If you don't have that, and that's unusual to have that, I would say let's not go there. Let's see if we can find something else that's safer. Okay, now we're moving into the kitchen. Obviously, access in the kitchen is a huge deal. Bringing things down to shoulder height. OTs do simple things like that. Make it accessible. I think this was a question on one of your lab things. What things do you use every day? I want to use the cereal bowl, spoon. I make my breakfast every morning. Okay, let's put this right on the counter. Kind of thing. So it's easily accessible. Same thing with the refrigerator, moving things that you use a lot to the front, make them accessible, shoulder height. Silverware can be really challenging for folks with cognitive issues, the perceptual stuff. Declutter, make it simple, that sort of thing. Just basic OT kind of stuff. Grab bars can go anywhere. Think about grab bars outside the box. These are extra long oven mitts, so they have to reach in, reach across. A lot of times you'll see stoves where the burners are in the back. This is kind of bad news for older folks. A lot of older folks, especially if there's gas burners, they catch their nightgowns on fire. They're very baggy, and horrific things happen. It's something you can recommend as a renter. Need a stove, just with front burners, kind of thing. It's a reasonable accommodation. Moving things in and out of the stove, reaching into the stove, way in. You can have a device that can pull it out, you can make something or buy something. The controls, if they have low vision, tactile, those little bump things, puffy paint, it's real cheap, it just puffs up, gives like a little bump. So you bump on 350, this is the number you want. Different kinds of, we'll get into smart stoves or reminders to turn it off. The pots and pans, they're very big, very awkward. You can adapt those, put different kinds of handles on them, different kinds of pots and pans. The faucets, gripping the faucets, turning the knobs can be an issue. Think about that. The washcloth, even wringing it out, you can kind of tie it around so they can just pull it versus wringing it out and that sort of thing. Dish detergent, access to it, do you want them to reach down into the cupboard to get it, or can you just put it up by the sink? Again, you're just simulating, walking through the process with them, and you can see, oh, let's just change this little thing, we'll make it safer. You really, if you do like a cooking activity, you can really get into this. You can reinforce your energy conservation. Um, Energy conservation doesn't really work good in abstract. You can give them a list, you can talk about it. They're like, what are you talking about? It's very abstract. But if you're doing it as you do an activity, let's do don't even call it energy conservation. Let's think about ways to kind of do it to get the most out of what you have for energy or whatever as we do the task. Let's sit and chop those vegetables. Let's sit and wash your dishes, kind of thing. Let's take a break. Let's think about taking breaks, if you're doing it within context of an activity, especially more than once, it really is a lot more effective than just giving them a handout and just talking about it in abstract, believe me. Laundry, the thermostat can be a big deal. Again, puffy paint, they can't see it, they can feel it. Okay, there's 68, I want to line these two numbers up. The laundry, the front loaders, this is a front loader, is ideal. Access to the laundry room, weight of the detergent bottles can be huge. You can break them down in small containers. Into the washing machine, consider reaching down in. Transporting dirty, wet, dry clothes, consider wheeled carts, small loads. Issues with folding, putting away, hanging clothes into the closet can be an issue. You gotta think about that as well. Here's like a wheeled laundry baskets on wheels. They can push it, so it gives them stability as they're doing it. This is a huge backpack. But smaller backpacks, they can pull it over their shoulder, keeping their hands free for the walker kind of thing. Putting a basket on a rollator might work. Different modifications to the walker. Depends what they have. I mean, the rollators are great. The brakes aren't so great, but the rest of the rollator is great in terms of sitting and carrying things. Portable oxygen tank on there. These walker trays, if they have an older walker. I've made these out of cardboard and wood. Very simple. Walker baskets you can attach. There's certain things I need to carry that they're always carrying. The food, to the TV room, the cell phone, tissue boxes, cups, that sort of thing. Room access, we talked about that. Taking off doors, putting up curtains, reversible hinges. You can make the door flip the other way. Moving walker wheels if it's an older walker to the inside. Oxygen lines can be really, really challenging. There's retractable oxygen lines now. You can get those, or just looping the line on a hook or something to keep it out of the way of their feet. Trip over that all the time. We're going to do this in class, in lab Thursday. We'll figure this out. This is going to be individualized for each of you. This is what you're going to use for your home safety assessment assignment. But the reach, how much do you have room to spin around, all that sort of stuff. We'll really break that down in lab. Okay. Home modifications. Environmental control units, ECUs. If you're familiar with those, we talked about that with Stephen Hawking. You can control everything from your laptop, from your computer, from your wheelchair, the lights, the phone, the locks. There's a page turner, window opener, curtain opener, intercom, communication, light switches, infrared, and a pager. Just endless possibilities if you have the resources that you can do to kind of set up. Some more practical, simpler ones. A good place to start if you go into Home Depot, Lowe's, they have like a smart home place. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of really trendy now. You know about Alexa. You can connect Alexa to lamps, other devices. Call a designated person for help. Wemo is a simple thing. It's an app that connects letters to a timer around your house. Smart stoves. These are really cool. They automatically turn off. Timer. You can even have motion sensors. So once you walk away, it turns off automatically so you don't forget to turn off the stove. Smartwatches. You guys know more about those than I do. Wearing them in the shower. Call 911. They can check your heart rate, your rhythm, EKGs kind of thing, fall detector, all this awesome stuff off of these smartwatches. Just be careful. I mean, you guys have grown up in this tech world. It's so simple and accessible for most of you. It's not that way for older folks. Any of this stuff really can be challenging for them. Maybe something good to do with their kids or their grandkids, really, that really can be helpful. Okay, so that is pretty much it.